Accident of Choice by Literally Mad Lad on AO3. Episode 24. Chapter 9. And at last I see the light, and it's like the fog is lifted. Spring arrived. Mitsuki and Masaru tapped a tree by the road, and Katsuki spent several hours watching the sap drip into the bag. He brought out a stool for himself, and bunched up in a blanket to do so. Mitsuki explained that it was because the sap had frozen over the winter and it was becoming liquid again, so it would fall out of the spout. The world was weird, but it made sense sometimes. This time, it made sense. It had been optimistic of him to assume that the assistant would listen to his wishes. Shortly after seeing her at the fish market, she came into Yagi's bar on a night Katsuki and Mitsuki worked. And before Katsuki could tell the assistant to get lost, Mitsuki was already interrupting. "Oh, Momo, how's your mom?" The assistant startled at the question. She's fine," she said. "I came to talk to..." The look on Katsuki's face was downright murderous. The assistant slapped her mouth shut. "I've been meaning to call her office. I think the kid over here needs glasses," Mitsuki said, jabbing a finger in Katsuki's direction. "Glasses," she repeated, her voice hollow. A piece of her bandage fell from her ponytail and over her face. She didn't bother pushing it aside, so she stared at Katsuki before making it back to Mitsuki. "You're planning on taking him to the doctor's?" "Well, I was hoping to get a favor. It's a long story," Mitsuki replied. "I'd love to hear it," the assistant said, and it took all of Katsuki's willpower not to bare his teeth and snarl at her. As the assistant took a seat, Mitsuki gave away everything. How Yagi stumbled into Katsuki, to Katsuki's dismay of the law enforcement, and their theories. How he was probably a runaway with a bad home life, and Mitsuki didn't mind housing Katsuki until he decided to talk about it. And all the while, Katsuki glared at the assistant, who kept her eyes on Mitsuki except for a few brief instances when she caught his threatening scowl. "Anyways, I've been rambling for a while then. You want something to drink?" Mitsuki asked, drumming her hands on the counter. Just water is fine, thank you," the accomplice said. "Well, Bakugou, you could square up with that then. I've got other customers to tend to," Mitsuki said, and she was off. With no one in his way, Katsuki approached the accomplice. She leaned back in her stool, wary of Katsuki, as he grabbed a glass and set it with a thud on the rubber mat. When it became clear that Katsuki was not, in fact, going to rip out her throat, the accomplice leaned back to whisper. "I haven't told Midoriya yet." Katsuki bristled. Every time Deku alluded to having talked to the accomplice, it was rippled with sorrows and remorse of their broken relationship. Last Katsuki heard, Deku hadn't talked to her in over a month. "Good," Katsuki said through his gritted teeth. "I don't want you to talk to him." "Did he do something to you?" she asked, and Katsuki gritted his teeth. "It's okay if you don't want to talk about it." Katsuki shoved the glass across the counter. The water sloshed over the rim. "You left him," Katsuki said, his eyes weighing heavy on the bar lights. He clenched his fists at his sides. "Oh," the accomplice whispered. "Oh, you're angry with me over that?" "You don't care about him," he said. "Not like I do." "Katsuki, it's more complicated than that," she said. "Midoriya and I are on good terms." "No, you're not," Katsuki said. He knew what good terms were, and whatever the accomplice and Deku had wasn't it. "You don't want to talk to him, ever." "Hey now," Mitsuki's voice sounded, scrolling back. "You guys talking or fighting? What about?" The accomplice cleared her throat, pushing a school back. "I think I may have pressed the button, so I'll be off. I'll let my mom know about the situation. I'm sure she could get him in." "Oh, good. We'll come back another time, maybe," Mitsuki suggested with a small, natural wave. Katsuki wanted to bite her hand off. True to her word, the accomplice did talk to her mom, and soon, Katsuki had an eye doctor appointment. It was a short train ride, but happened to intercept a family event with Mitsuki and Masaru. The morning of the appointment, Katsuki had arrived in the kitchen to find the arch-nemesis sitting at the dining table. Katsuki stared at the accomplice, sitting there, acting all innocent, while Mitsuki and Masaru flocked to the kitchen, sweeping their coats on and grabbing their keys. Something urgent came up with Masaru's mother, Mitsuki explained to Katsuki, who stood up like a rock in the doorway. Mitsuki gently maneuvered him to the side as he explained. I called Momo to take you to the appointment. I'd asked Yagi, but he doesn't like trains all that much. Can't let you go alone. What with those kids that went missing last year? Of course, the accomplice said. I'll take care of him. Thanks again, Mitsuki called to the accomplice on her way out the door. Masaru waved at them with a smile as he shut the door after them. Katsuki turned to the accomplice, seething. You and I both know this isn't the best scenario, the accomplice had the audacity to say. It's gonna be hard enough explaining why your eyes are the way they are to my mother? But if Mitsuki was in the room... Hey, where are you going? The accomplice jogged out the door after him. Mitsuki's car was peeling out the garage at that very moment, so the two of them watched Mitsuki and Masaru disappear on the road. Katsuki's fists were shaking from how hard he clenched them. Katsuki wheeled on her. She yelped, hands raised in surrender. I haven't talked to Midoriya, I promise. Good, Katsuki hissed. Let's go. Katsuki walked ahead of the accomplice, on the way to the train station. His blood was boiling under his skin at the thought of having to sit next to her on a train, which luckily didn't happen. They stood apart from one another on the train platform, and having their ticket scanned, Katsuki made sure to sit several rows away from her. He kept her eye in her line of sight, though, which he made incredibly obvious, from the way he glared across the empty seats at her. She only looked his way, once every few minutes to see if he had stopped staring. When the train came to a stop half an hour later, the accomplice got to her feet, and as a result, so did Katsuki. He pushed past her and led the way out, at which point he probably stopped in the middle of the platform when it dawned on him that he didn't know where he was going. This way, the accomplice said. Katsuki begrudgingly followed her lead, not that he enjoyed himself or anything. He couldn't believe his day came to this, fraternizing with the enemy. He felt borderline guilty for depending on her when Deku couldn't depend on her for all those months. At a stoplight, Katsuki shoved his hands into his pockets and sighed into the collar of his coat. He wished the world would end and that everyone but him and Deku would die so that he might be able to scream loud enough for Deku to hear him. He supposed he could do that now, but society compelled his composure to behave itself. Why? Why must it be like... is it gonna be the ending where, like, they finally reunite at the very fucking end? Literally mad, lad? You're literally mad! Lad? Okay, so far I'm enjoying it, kind of. I say kind of, maybe just because I wish it was a bit longer. But it's an issue I have a lot with fan fictions. I always wish that they were longer. I wish there was more. It stems from trauma, you know. I'm joking, or am I? Anyways, I hate that the accomplice did not talk to Izuku. This is literally just miscommunication, and I want to punch both of them. Yes, the accomplice and Bakugou. I want to punch both of them. Can we get Izuku's point of view? Is Izuku okay? Is he just like laying in his bed, you know, playing emo music and sobbing? Playing his heartbreak playlist? Or what is this? What is this? What is this? Okay. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.